The new lineup of DJI Mavic prosumer foldable drones consists now of 4 models, including the Mavic 2 Zoom. The Air 2 was launched only a few weeks ago and is the middle of the range model, at exactly half the price of the flagship one, the Mavic 2 Pro, which was released 2 years ago. But 2 years is a very long time for a fast-moving industry, so we can expect some new generation technologies implemented in the Air 2. In the first part of this video I will compare in depth the capabilities of the two models. In the second part I will show a good amount of footage to compare the video of the Air 2 to the Mavic 2 Pro under all kinds of scenarios. Finally, I will analyze which kind of users should go for each of the two drones. I'm not going to analyze the photography side of things, as there is already plenty of material to treat here. So I will do a specific video about photos and hyperlapses. I must admit that I'm quite excited, so let's get going. I have done several videos about specific aspects of the two drones. I will post a link to the relative playlist at the end of this video and in the description below. If you're interested in the Mavic Air 2 or in any other drone, I would suggest subscribing to my channel, the home of fearless drone heroes. The Air 2 sells for about $800, which is more or less half the price of the Mavic 2 Pro. DJI is generally very good in marketing and tends to market each model for a specific kind of user. But in this case we must also consider that Air 2 has 2 extra Aero technology. The Mavic Air 2 is smaller and weighs 570 grams versus 907 for the Mavic 2 Pro. This is certainly an advantage for the Air, although I consider the 2 Pro very portable too, even for hiking or traveling. The Air 2 has a totally different controller compared to any other Mavic model, and I like it a lot. It is much bigger and fits really nicely in the hands. Also, the mobile device sits above the controller in a much more natural location. I also like the fact that the cable for connection is always ready for use inside the clamp, and the antennas are integrated in the clamp, and there is no need to orientate them. The only apparent downside of the controller is the sides, but if we take out the joysticks, it packs very flat in a small bag. The Mavic Air 2 utilizes the new DJI Fly app introduced with the Mavic Mini, instead of DJI 4, which is the one for all other Mavic models. I really like the new app, the screen looks very clean, with the main info easily available. The only annoying point is that some of the video and photo settings are in the setting mode. I much prefer the old method, with every video and photo setting available in the video photo button. That would be a great firmware update. The Fly More combo for the Air 2 comes with a set of ND filters, which is a really nice touch from DJI. Well done! I have tested battery life while hovering on a spot, and Air 2 scored 30 minutes, against 28 for the Mavic 2 Pro. Here is a noise test for the two aircraft. As you can hear, the noise level is almost the same. Both models have the excellent OcuSync signal transmission system, which is rock solid and much better than the Wi-Fi based systems in other Mavic models. In flight, both models are very powerful and respond extremely well to the control sticks. The Mavic 2 Pro always had an annoying drop of the camera angle when stopping abruptly, while the excellent 3-axis gimbal of the Air 2 is always perfectly stable, with the horizon always straight. Sadly, in the Air 2 at the moment it's not possible to adjust the speed of the tilt of the gimbal and the yaw, but I hope this will be soon added in a firmware upgrade. It must be said that tilt and yaw are relatively smooth, not as abrupt as in the Mini. The Air 2 has obstacle avoidance sensors in the front, back and bottom, but not on the side or on the top, while the Mavic 2 Pro has omnidirectional sensors. Regarding video, the two models have very different specs. They both have some modes in H.264 and other in H.265 codec. The mode in H.264 is for both models called Normal, and it is the one meant to be used just out of the box, or with very little post-processing, maybe just a touch of extra contrast. As you can see, both models perform extremely well under this mode. The Air 2 has probably just a touch of extra sharpness and detail, probably due to a new video processor. But someone who considers to buy a Mavic 2 Pro is obviously planning heavy post-processing, so for the purpose of this comparison we should concentrate on the H.265 mode. H.265 modes require more powerful computers and the post-processing workflow takes much longer. In H.265, the Mavic 2 Pro has two 10-bit modes, D-Log and HLG. They are both excellent and can withstand any post-processing torture. 10-bit color has a choice of 1 billion colors, against 16 millions for 8-bit. Due to the wider color space, in 10-bit we never encounter artifacts like color banding or pixelation that might happen in 8-bit mode under certain circumstances. It is also much less prone to chromatic noise. But let's see what happens if we try to modify an individual color on a video recorded in 8-bit with the Mavic Air 2. Let's say that in this case the sky looks a bit unnatural, so we want to modify the hue, increase the saturation and make it a bit darker. But you can see that the 8-bit image doesn't have enough color info to play with, and the image falls apart with banding, pixelation and chromatic noise. On the other hand, the 10-bit color space of the Mavic 2 Pro handles it perfectly, and the ability to modify individual colors is a big advantage for the flagship model. The Air 2 only works at 8-bit, but in H.265 has a bitrate of 120 Mbps, the highest in any Mavic drone, against 100 for the Mavic 2 Pro. The higher bitrate means lower compression in the files, so the Air 2 should be able to withstand very heavy post-processing. If we compare post-processed footage made in good light condition with the two models, we don't see a huge difference in quality. They are certainly in the same league, and is a much higher league compared to any other Mavic model. Video quality here is a matter of personal choice, but we certainly cannot say that one model is way better than the other. A recurring issue with drone footage is moire, especially in scenes containing building and geometrical patterns. When a drone moves forward or sideways, straight lines and other patterns seem to move independently in a very unnatural and unpleasant way. Both the Air 2 and the Mavic 2 Pro handle moire extremely well. I have never encountered any moire issue with the Air 2 so far, and very rarely and very small amount with the Mavic 2 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro in the 10-bit modes has a very pronounced barrel distortion, which is very evident when the sea is in the horizon. It is easy to get rid of it in post-production, so it's not a big issue, but just slightly annoying. No such an issue at all with the Mavic Air 2. The Air 2 is the only drone in the Mavic lineup to record footage at 60, 50 or 48 frames per second in 4K resolution, therefore enabling slow motion. This is not much of use when shooting landscape footage from far away, but it is extremely useful, even a deal maker, We're shooting close to the action, with scenes involving people, sport, action, animals, waves or waterfalls. Shooting in the direction of the sun, so in extremely high dynamic range, has always been an extremely difficult subject for drones, and an area where they cannot even remotely compete with traditional cameras. This is perfectly understandable because of the tiny size of the sensor and even more the small and extremely basic lenses. Against the full sun, both the Air 2 and the 2 Pro perform much better than any other drone of the Mavic line. Of course, around the sun the highlights are totally burned. There is some nasty flare and loss of detail and saturation, but at least they manage to maintain some structure in the sky and in the foreground. I still avoid shooting with the drone against the full sun. But if we shoot towards the direction of the sun, making sure that the sun is not directly in the frame, things get better, and these two models manage to get footage almost acceptable. The Mavic Pro has a much bigger 1-inch sensor compared to the half-inch of the Mavic Air 2. The bigger sensor should give better low-light performance. The Mavic Air 2 has an unusual behavior regarding noise and ISO. After solid post-processing, it can show quite heavy noise even at ISO 100. It is mostly chromatic noise, and especially in the shadows. Please note that so far in this video I have not used any denoising, so that you can judge the amount of noise present. But in real life, with footage coming from a drone, I always use the legendary Nit Video, an absolute must-have software. You will find a link to my video review on screen now. As you can see, after applying Nit Video, the noise is history, and there is no loss of detail at all, so this noisy behavior of the Air 2 is not an issue at all for me. Moving to ISO 200 or 400, we do not see a big degradation of quality in the footage. And at ISO 800 the footage is still usable, if we really need to go that high, even though we start to have just a little bit of loss of detail. The 2 Pro has a more traditional behavior at different ISO values. It is practically noise-free at ISO 100 and 200. We start to notice some noise at 400, and things get worse at 800, which I would only use as a last resort. But the Mavic 2 Pro has another couple of aces up its sleeves. First of all, the possibility of shooting footage in two different sizes. I'm not going here into technical detail about it, as I have done a full video review of this drone where I explain it in detail. You will find a link on screen now. Simply put, you can shoot footage at the equivalent of 28mm or at a much closer equivalent of 42mm, without any loss of quality. It is pretty much like having two interchangeable lenses, which is an extremely useful feature, not only to get closer to the action, but also to get a different perspective of a subject. Also, the Mavic 2 Pro is the only model in the Mavic line to support variable aperture of the shutter, which is of course extremely useful to fine-tune the exposure and adapt to changing light conditions. Regarding intelligent flight modes, the new A2 has basically the equivalent of active track, point of interest and course lock. But it lacks top flight, which I consider useful but not an absolute must-have. Waypoints 2.0 is also sadly missing. It is the one I use the most, as it allows to perform the most difficult flight moves in a perfectly smooth way and at constant speed. The new Air 2 is indeed an excellent drone, and it might suit a broad range of users. Beginners who can afford the price tag will appreciate the safety and the reliability of this model, with excellent signal transmission, some obstacle avoidance, and enough power to fly against good wind. For advanced use or semi-professionals who don't intend to do heavy post-processing or are mostly interested in social media, this is certainly the best model, offering excellent video quality off the box and plenty of reliability. Professional users who are mostly into lifestyle, sport, action might be tempted by the ability to perform slow motion at 4K. Most adult professionals will still go for the Mavic 2 Pro, as the ability to tweak individual colors in 10-bit mode, the variable aperture, the choice of two different sizes of footage, and Waypoint 2.0 are features that justify the higher price tag in a professional contest. I would not be surprised if DJI will introduce a new version of the flagship model, probably with 60 frames per second at 4K and maybe a resolution higher than 4K for video, as the new Air 2 has plenty to offer at a very attractive price and might tempt a lot of users away from the excellent Mavic 2 Pro. And what about me? Well, at the moment, whenever I can, I carry both and use the Mavic Air 2 when I need slow motion and the 2 Pro in all other occasions. I will be posting several more videos about all the aspects of the Mavic Air 2, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.